The other day, Beth and I were cooking, and all of a sudden, Beth turned to me and she said, I need some tiny thoughts. And I was like, tiny thoughts? I don't know. I'm not sure what she's saying. And as we talked about it more, and we were um, laughing while we were doing that because she got it muddled up with a book called Tiny Habits. But what she really meant was tiny thoughts. She had been thinking a lot and got in a loop. I don't know if this happens to you, it happens to me. You get in a loop of thinking where you're sort of it's almost like you're in a spiral and you're either spiraling up, so there's like so much excitement and energy that you're not sure where to end, or you're cycling down and you're feeling like, oh my God, I can't get out of this. I'm just keep thinking about worst case scenarios all the time. And so when Beth said this idea of tiny thoughts, we then started to talk about like what would it mean like instead of having these big thoughts all the time, that when you were overwhelmed, you just said, I need a tiny thought. And it reminded me of something I learned when I was teaching or facilitating workshops on social emotional skills to staff who are working with young people. And so thinking about one of the ideas was like emotion management. How do we um, support young people to manage their emotions? And one of the things I learned in the research for that was physically, our bodies, when we have an emotional reaction, only feel it for about 90 seconds. Like that's the physical manifestation of an emotion. And so we're usually in flight, flight, or freeze. And what happens though, because we're human beings and we have thought, is that we have a strong emotion and then we have thoughts and we have more thoughts. And it keeps us in that emotion rather than like this 90-second window where we could shift the energy or could shift our thinking. And so I thought it might be really interesting to try. So I'm going to be trying this when I get in this state where I'm like, oh my God, I got so much going on in my head. I just need a tiny thought. And if I can get a tiny thought, then that tiny thought might be the thing that helps me move from being strong in the emotion and not moving out of it and gets out of the storytelling that keeps me in the emotion. You may know this probably like if you've had a conflict with a friend or a family member and it goes unresolved and you had a strong feeling in that moment about it, but it's like 3 months later and you're still feeling the same thing because you were telling yourself a story about it and you've done nothing about it. And so I'm going to be like thinking about what are all these tiny thoughts, and I'll be sharing more of these tiny thoughts as they come up for me. Like, what was a tiny thought that helped me shift from being frustrated and angry to being able to make sure I get my tasks done? Um, what is a tiny thought when I'm feeling like down and frustrated with maybe the world and it's overwhelming? What's a tiny thought that I could have that might give me a little bit of joy and like just a little bounce up? It doesn't mean that I don't feel sadness, I don't feel anger. It just means I don't get stuck in them, that it stops me doing the things that I love to do. So, if this resonated with you, and maybe you've got a friend or a family member who's stuck in deep thoughts, maybe you could share with them what are some tiny thoughts? Or you just say to them, you need some tiny thoughts.